You were born with individual strengths and a unique purpose. Don't let fears, false beliefs, or life's happenings diminish your influence. It's time to live and lead for impact. Host Kirsten Ross, expert of transformation, will help you defeat the drama and overcome the trauma that can stop you in your tracks. You'll gain focus, find confidence, and take bold action. Unleash passionate, purposeful you. Let's go.
Welcome to Live or Lead for Impact. I'm Kirsten Ross-Vogel, your host and Team Performance Pro, and this is episode 305. I have an interesting guest today. I'm really looking forward to learning more about her business. Her name is Whitney Coupland. She's a certified nutritional practitioner and life coach. In her online coaching practice, she helps people with autoimmune diseases navigate the diet, lifestyle, and mindset aspects of healing so they can start feeling like themselves again. And wow, so many people have autoimmune stuff. So what important work you're doing. So welcome, Whitney.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the impact that you're making in the world, the work that you're doing.
Yeah, so I'll start with a bit of a backstory. From when I was 12 years old, I grew up in Ontario, Canada, and we have pretty harsh winters there. And so one spring, my family and I went up to our cottage, and my younger sister and I decided that we were going to go for a polar dip. So if anyone's not familiar with that, it's as soon as a body of water kind of starts thawing out to a safe point, you jump in and the water is super cold. So we did that and I got out of the water and my arm and hands were completely white and numb. So my dad had to use both of his hands to get the blood flow circulating again. And when we told my doctor about this, they said, "Oh, that's called Raynaud syndrome, and it's an autoimmune condition." So fast forward many years to age 30, I guess 29 or 30, I was pregnant with my second child. And my midwife discovered that my thyroid gland was enlarged. And so I had some testing done and was soon diagnosed with my second autoimmune condition of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So really my work in the world now is to help other people with autoimmune conditions with their diet and their lifestyle so that they can live as close to symptom-free as possible and live a fulfilling life despite having a chronic health condition.
That's great. Yeah. So I want to learn more about how that works. I will say, so I have ongoing health challenges. I have a son who had PAONS. Are you familiar with that? Pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome.
I don't know much about that one. No.
Yeah. It's a yucky one. It attacks the brain, autoimmune encephalitis. So yeah, there's a whole community of people that are beautiful people, but it was an unfortunate community to have to be a part of for many years. But anyway, so we definitely did a lot holistically to help him get better over years. He's out of his teens now and adult and all of that. So, but yeah, it's so I know the challenge of autoimmune.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. And I mean, when I first got my diagnosis, I was referred to an endocrinologist, which is essentially a hormone specialist. And in that meeting with the doctor, I was essentially told that diet and lifestyle don't play a role in my condition, and that there's nothing that I can or should be doing to help improve my health using diet or lifestyle. And that because I don't yet require medication, I would basically just be waiting until the point where I do require medication. And because my thyroid is quite enlarged and you can actually see it, my doctor said, if it's bothering you physically or you just don't like the way it looks, you can have it removed. So being a nutritionist, I knew that just simply wasn't true. And so I decided to also, like you did with your son, take more alternative approaches to healing, starting with seeing a naturopathic doctor for food sensitivity testing. And then through that, at that point in time, I had a 2-year-old and a newborn. And I was essentially told, based on my testing, that I would have to eliminate, I would say 15 to 30 foods. I can't remember the exact number, but it was all of my daily staples, healthy foods. Being a nutritionist, I was already eating very well. But I was told, you need to eliminate these foods for 6 or more months. And I was given no guidance about how to do that, or then how to reincorporate these foods back into my diet. And I remember walking around the block with my little infant attached to my body, trying to let this information absorb. I was like, how am I going to do this with 2 young children? And being a nutritionist, I was like, you know what? I'm going all in. I have to do this. And so I started looking for recipes online. And one day I came across a website called autoimmunewellness.com. And this is when my life really changed, because I knew that there was now a way of moving forward where my naturopathic doctor gave me information. These are the foods you should not eat for this amount of time. This website actually told me food lists, stages of taking foods out, when to reincorporate foods, what to look out for to know if a food was working for me or not. And essentially, this is called the Autoimmune protocol, which is what I now work with my clients.
Well, and that's got to be so helpful. I mean, I'm picturing you with your 2-year-old and newborn, and you happily had the knowledge behind you, but we're still like, oh my gosh, the logistics. And most people don't have the knowledge either. So, I mean, that logistics piece alone can be so overwhelming. So it's great that you're providing that service to people. So tell me a little bit about how you work and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, so I work in a one-on-one capacity with clients right now. I work with clients in Canada, the US, and I'm starting to see people in Europe as well. And basically, what I help people do is find a joyful way of eating that is also going to heal their body at the same time. And being trained in the autoimmune protocol, it is a systematic approach. So there are specific things that we do along the way. But I think what sets me apart from other practitioners who also use this type of protocol is I always come from, what do you want to do? What are you going to enjoy? What is going to bring you joy? Because if you can't enjoy your life on a day-to-day basis, it's not something that is going to be sustainable for the long term. So even though I use this, researched and backed protocol, it's always from a place of what works best for the unique individual in front of me.
Well, and what I'm hearing too as a focus on mindset was just so important, because I'm sure when you're, just randomly researching and finding this protocol, and then it feels like a have to or an I can't. And from that mindset, there's not a lot of joy in there. So I'm sure you're doing a lot with helping them understand. And again, adapt it to what works well for them, who they are as an individual versus this generic, well researched protocol, but still it's not designed for how it'll squeeze into their life. And then the mindset so they can feel empowered around it instead of like a victim.
Exactly. And another piece of the mindset is coming at this whole approach from a place of my body is strong and capable. My body is always doing its best to signal to me what it needs. Because in the medical community, a lot of the time when we're being told, what is going on in our body, there is terminology like your body is attacking itself. Your body doesn't know how to stop this. And it's a very negative way to think about how your body is working for you. So if we can come from the place of, I'm going to do all of these wonderful things for my body because my body knows exactly what to do to heal.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And, uh, there are so many people suffering with autoimmune disease right now. I mean, I had read a book years ago. I don't remember any of the stats, but I just remember it had gone up astronomically, like the kinds and the,
Yes.
and just basically, whatever's the weakness in your body is kind of where that autoimmune thing is going to happen. Yes.
Yes, so there's actually three kind of different pillars that lead up to autoimmunity. So the first one is genetics. You have a genetic predisposition for autoimmunity. And the second is your environment. And your environment includes everything from bacteria and viruses to stressors, life events. And then there's your diet and lifestyle. And that comes down to things like you may have heard the term leaky gut and
Mhm.
hormonal imbalances. So, our diet and lifestyle do play a role in those things. And it's really the perfect storm of genetics, environment, and your diet and lifestyle that can lead to the presentation of an autoimmune disease in your body.
And I think we live in such a stressful time too. I think the environmental impact is there, but also just so much stress.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so I so appreciate the work that you're doing. So I would like to take a quick moment to ask you what's a current challenge, because this is so important, the work that you're doing. So let's work on helping you make an even bigger, bolder impact. So, what's a current challenge that stands in the way right now for you creating that bigger, bolder impact? And we're going to create some strategies right now. So, I'm going to do a little bit of coaching with you, and then other people listening are going to be, dealing with the same kind of thing. And so it's going to serve them as well. So, what's a challenge that you'd be willing to share right now?
So, like you just mentioned, there are so many autoimmune diseases. I think there are over 140 different conditions now that are considered to be autoimmune in nature. And so, most of the clients that I work with come to me through networking and referrals. And when I say networking, it's like I meet them face to face or I meet them face to face online. And in order to have a bigger, bolder impact, I am transitioning to more of the online space. And so the challenge that I'm finding is messaging, because when I first started my business, I actually asked several people in my network to fill out a survey. And they were all people that I knew had autoimmune conditions. And there were a handful of people that said, "Why are you sending this to me? I don't have an autoimmune disease." But they did. They just didn't know that their condition was considered autoimmune. And so when I speak in terms of healing from autoimmune disease, I feel like I'm kind of missing a lot of people who don't necessarily know that their condition is autoimmune. And the importance of knowing that your condition is autoimmune is that we then know what steps to take to start reversing that.
So your question is, how can you better message so that you're not missing the people who don't already know that they have autoimmune?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I will say, so marketing is not my main thing. However, I've been doing this a long time. So what strikes me as you don't need to dub it autoimmune. There are like similar consequences to the autoimmune that a lot of people are experiencing that you
yes.
can target instead. And it probably helps you anyway with, of course, you can't say healing autoimmune,
Hmm.
any of that anyway. And
Yeah,
so speaking generically more of inflammation, brain fog, fatigue,
yes.
pain, I probably can't even say pain, discomfort in the body. So helping them improve, and again, getting at like what you can, that's another barrier, getting at what you can
Hmm.
say health wise, because you can't make any promises and all of that of healing. But I would think your messaging would go specifically towards those kinds of phrases and then, just helping people. And if you can say, I don't, again, you'd have to check all this, but can you talk about decreasing inflammation, body discomfort, feeling more
Mm-hmm.
energized, feeling less tired, fatigue, those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. That's great advice. And I guess another part of it is it's a very sheltered kind of space because anybody who has created some type of support group or program around this, they're really trying to protect the people within that
Mhm.
space.
Exactly.
So to get your messaging across to other networks is also tricky in that regard. So yeah, I would say that is a work in progress. And because I believe in the power of coaching, I'm also working with a business coach on this because two brains is better than one. And somebody who is further along than you on their journey is always of great help.
Yeah. And so, instead of targeting to with inside other people's groups, I would just be really consistent, and you're probably working on this, but with, both branding and messaging, and just consistent with social media posting, and just whether it's your own journey and improvements you've seen, or stories about clients who are okay with you sharing a little bit generically about like before and after kinds of stories, any testimonials that people will allow you to do with a picture so that it's valid.
Mm-hmm.
Video testimonials are great. So all of those kinds of things, just telling the story of basically you want to get before and after, and the
Yeah.
experience that you had. And really the focus too is, not how you're doing it, but the results.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, because people don't, I love this. Like, I heard this many years ago. So, I've been a business owner for going on 30 years. And so, this was years ago, but the illustration that someone used about how so often we can get down into the weeds talking about what we do. Oh, we'll meet this often and you'll do this and that and this and that. So, the analogy that they used was when someone is helping plan a trip, they're not showing you a brochure of like lugging your luggage down the down a ramp and catching a ride to the airport and all the logistics of it. No, they're showing you the beautiful brochure of where you're going to end up. And so
Yes.
really it's creating the visual of that and what life can be like, and the people don't really care about the details of how they're going to get there until they're farther along the road. And then, you're just spoon feeding that. We don't care how we get there.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get there.
Yeah, I love that. That's really great advice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so good. I hope that, a little bit of what I shared will help. And again, I'm sure other people have similar challenges in making their own impact, and how it's a little bit harder too to get an audience online and get a message out. It's just so much noise. And again,
Mm-hmm.
all the different platforms have, it's a little bit harder to just get that organic reach anymore. They're monetizing from their end so much more now than years ago. So, yeah, but I think if you, just keep putting the message out, eventually people start to see.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, you talked about meeting people, finding those good referral partners who are some of the kinds of people that have complementary services to yours, and connecting with them. And that's how I've built my business, honestly, like for all these years. So people who
Yeah.
work with small to medium sized family businesses and nonprofits, who are providing other services, not the team and HR and leadership aspects. And so, it's great to have those referral partners, one, because they can refer to you, but even more importantly, you become more valuable to your clients. And if you have more in your tool belt in terms of really good referrals, if they need other services that are complementary to yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I do love the in-person networking and, partnering with other small business owners and, sending them business as well. So it's a really great approach. It's just the thought of having a bigger impact because I know that there are so many people out there suffering with autoimmune symptoms on day to day, and they just don't know how big of a role diet does play. And even if they do, like I did after seeing that naturopath, I ran into so many logistical type issues. And so if you can get off on the right foot there, then you're golden.
Yes, yes. So, well, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And as we close out today, I just want to ask you what words of wisdom you have for others who are working to make their own impact in the world.
So, for others making their own impact, I think the biggest thing for me was realizing it's not about me. So, any effort that I then make going out into the world, even being on this podcast or showing up live on somebody's Instagram for an interview, you stop worrying about how you're showing up because it's not about how you're showing up. It's about getting that message out so that people can actually change in the way that you're helping them. So for me, it's like, I just want people to hear the message that diet can make a difference in autoimmune healing. And if you come at it from a place of my body is capable and I can do this in a way that I enjoy, then it becomes so much more possible. And I really had to put all my own stuff aside to just get out and start speaking these words.
That's great. And I hope that you get your message out more and more. More people do need to hear it. So thank you so much, Whitney, for joining me today. If you want to connect with Whitney, her links and social media will be on today's show notes, but you can find her at whitneycoupland.com. That's WHITNEYCOUPLAND.com. And also her Instagram is her name as well. And then on YouTube, again, those links will be in today's show notes. You can find those by going to defeatthedrama.com. Click on the podcast tab and go to episode 305. And if you are working and experiencing challenges to making your bigger, bolder impact in communication, clarity, building your team, setting clear expectations, all those kinds of things, I am so happy to help you. Grab a spot on my calendar, reach out. You can go get 30 minutes just go to myimpactacademy.com/book call. It is that simple. And I hope to hear from you. So thank you so much, all of you who are listening and making your bigger, bolder impact in the world. Get out there and make a great day. Thanks for listening.